Yeah, it's okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So just tell me what is the roles and the responsibility you are driving here in the current organization?
Yeah. So my role and responsibility in my current organization, I'm backend Java developer, and my responsibility in my project is to developing the new API as well as the finding the bugs in previous API, and also responsible for the coding. That kind of thing I'm doing in my project.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So can you please tell me what are the technologies you have used in your current project?
Yeah, I also work in my current project like Spring MVC as well as Spring Boot, then REST API also I have used, Spring JDBC also I have used.
That's nice, interesting. So you have used Java 8, right?
Java on last 2 months onwards I'm using Java.
Okay. So have you ever used Java new features?
Yes sir.
So can you please tell me what are the Java 8 new features you have used?
Yeah, there are lots of Java feature includes like lambda expressions, like functional interface, then also default has a static method in an interface, then also predefined interfaces like consumer, like uh, supplier, then functions, predicate, also optional class.
Okay. So what is the difference between function and predicate?
Yeah. So function and predicate. Yeah. So function is then useful for the or sorry, predicate is useful for the to check given result is a boolean value or not. And
Okay.
function is then useful for the if given result is a predicate or not. There is no matter. That's why function is then used.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you ever used Stream APIs?
Yes, sir.
So can you please tell me what is Stream API and why they have introduced it?
Yeah, so stream API especially is also to processing the collections object, special methods. And they have to provide a lot of inbuilt methods like filter, map, then main, max, also sorted, for each method. That kind of methods they have to provide to make the
Okay.
code concise and improve readability.
Okay. So, so as you have mentioned that they have introduced functional interface, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are the that functional interface why they have introduced in Java 8?
Yeah. So functional interface means it can contain only a single SAM. Means SAM means a single abstract method, and it can contain also multiple default method as well as also we can take also multiple static method. And a functional interface and a special means also to invoke or to call the lambda expression.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. So can you please tell me what is the stream pipelining?
And pipeline, no sir, I am not aware of that.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So just tell me if I have a list of employees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there are the multiple employees. Now I wanted to have those employees whose salary is greater than 3,000. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just an example, whose salary is greater than 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
We can do with the help of the Stream API?
Yeah, so first we have to take that list into the stream. Suppose in my array list having a lot of employee and I have to find that employee salary. So first we have to attach that list to the stream like el dot stream, then dot, then we have to use the filter and filter inside the filter we have to provide condition like if you have given employee which
Mm-hmm.
initial is greater than
Okay.
our condition. Then we have to use the collector, collect and inside the collector dot to list, and that what are the result we have to got, we have to take inside the list. And when we will print that list, then we will get the highest salary of that employee.
And how you will collect? Can you please repeat again?
Collect inside collect we have to dot collectors dot to list. The to list is a static method of an collector.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the system dot out dot println?
Yeah. So system is an class which is an present in our lang package, and out is an static variable which is return type is a print string, and println is a method of an system class. It's
Println is a method of the what you have said system
system
class.
class. Println is a method of this. Yeah. Which is a return type also print type. Yeah. Print string.
And out is what?
Out is in a static variable by a system class, and it is a return type having type of
So what
print
is
string.
the data type of that out variable?
Print string.
Print string.
Yeah.
And again you said println is a method present inside
System class.
system class.
System.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Um, yeah.
Okay, okay, interesting. So what is the collection
Yeah.
and
So
what are the different types of collection you have used?
yeah. So earlier, what thing happened? Thing. Suppose I want to store one variable, one value of a variable. I have to declare one variable, and suppose you have to declare two value variable. Then we have to declare two variables. Then if I want to store 100 variables, then we can introducing an array, because whenever we are declaring 100 variables, it is a very increasing the code, and it is an decreasing code concise. That's why array concept is an introducer. But array having some limitations, like array store only homogeneous data elements, then it is a fixed in size. Means once we can declare an array, we cannot be reduce as well as increase the size. To overcome that problem, collection is introduced in market. So collection means if you want to store a group of individual objects into a single variable, then we should go with an collection. And then there are 9 key interfaces are present in an collection, like collection, list, set, then sorted set, navigable set, then map, sorted map, navigable map, and queue. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what are the different types of collection you have used?
Like list, set, yeah.
Have you used hash map?
Yeah, little bit, yeah.
A little bit. So do you know internal working of hash map? Can you please
Yeah,
explain that?
yeah. So internally hash map uses a hash table, and whenever we can creating an object of an hash map, like hash map h is equal to new hash map, then default initial capacity having a 16, that hash map object will be get created. And whenever we
Okay.
are trying to perform inserting an object into hash map object by using the put variable, then internal what thing
Hmm.
happen, given variable and in a put variable we can store on the key value pair. So whatever the variable we are adding, then by using that key, hash code of an object will be get calculated. Based on that hash code, index will be get calculated, and that based on the index, our object will be get placed into that position. And has the time of the retrieving operation, when we are performing the get operation on the hash map object, then hash code of an given key will be get calculated, and based on the hash code index will be get calculated, then controller going in particular bucket and check whether the given index and given hash key and our specifying hash keys are matched. If they are equal, then you will return that associated value of an key, or has associated value of that key, and it will return that our result.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, you can continue.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is,
So what is the have you used hash set?
yes, sir.
So what is the internal working of hash set?
Yeah, so hashes are internally using an hash map object, and whenever we can performing the adding operation with the help of the add method, then internally what thing happen, it will call and put method onto that hash map object. So internal how thing happen whenever we can adding in that object with the help of the add, it has a act has a key into the put method. Then that object will be get stored into that has set object, and it has set contain one predefined variable like a present constant, and which is then useful for the storing the value for related that key.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So, are you aware about hash code collision?
Hash code collision, yeah.
Okay, can you please explain what is that hash code collision?
Hash code collision, I mean, there is one contract between dot equals method and hash code method, which is contract is that if whenever we can override the dot equals method, then we should have to override the hash code method to update it. But whenever we cannot override the hash code method, then we cannot be get any compile time error or any runtime error. And
Okay.
yeah, and
And what will happen if I'm getting the same hash code, then
mhm.
what will happen? How data gets stored?
If I get in our class dot equals method I have override also hash code method also override, then two object getting two same hash code, then yeah, in a single bucket it will be stored. It is in a single bucket
Single
bucket.
bucket, the multiple of the entries get stored, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then whenever
Hello,
object,
hello.
hello,
Uh-huh.
then whenever we are fetching that hash code object, okay, hash map object, sorry, um, how it will fetch that particular bucket? Like one bucket can have multiple of entries, right?
Yeah, yeah. So internal how thing happen. Suppose they're having 16 capacity having a bucket. Then object will be stored into the particular their index or particular their hash code. Then it will store in an top to bottom. And if any index contain more than one object, then it will print it like to left, right to left.
Okay.
Yeah. And then in this way it will return it.
Okay. What is the difference between hash table and concurrent hash map?
Hash table and concurrent hash map. Okay, sure. So, hash table. So, hash table is an implementation class of an map, and it is an introduction in JDK 1.0 version. So, it is an legacy class. But concurrent hash map are a child class of an hash map, and it is an introduction in JDK 1.5 version. So, it is not in a legacy class. And hash table is specially in an hash table. Whole object or whole object lock get is applicable, but in a concurrent hash map, in a bucket level or segment level lock get is applicable. Then hash table is an focused on like collection framework, and concurrent hash map is a focus on the exact executable framework like that. And then hash table also. Hash table
So
does
what
not
is the
contain.
main difference between hash table and concurrent hash map?
Hash table and concurrent hash table whole object we can apply the lock, or it is an applicable for the lock for the whole object over the hash table. But in a concurrent hash map for the segment level or bucket level lock is get applicable, and for reading lock is not applicable, but updating of lock is applicable in a concurrent hash map.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you please tell me what are the different ways to create a thread in Java?
There are two ways to creating thread by using thread class and by using the runnable interface.
Okay. And what what way is recommended to create a thread?
Runnable interface.
And why is that?
Because as compared to the thread or as compared to the class line interface, class is a very heavyweight, because the class we can also create a object for the class, and class can have static block, instance block, also instance method, and the main thing is then class can have a constructor. And as compared to interface, interface is a lightweight because it cannot be create any object for the interface. Then it is a lightweight. Also, then constructor is not applicable for the interface. So that's why interface is then recommended to use as compared to the performance.
Okay, interesting. So have you ever used executor services to create a thread?
No, actually, I'm not too much work on multi-threading. Just a basic idea there about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So have you ever created a thread or just idea on those?
idea on that. Actually, just a graduation level knowledge about it, but I'm not too much opportunity to get to work on multi-threading.
Okay, okay, no problem, no problem.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between JDK, JRE and JVM?
Yeah, so JDK is stands for Java Development Kit, and it is responsible for the to developing and to run the application. And JRE stands for Java Runtime Environment, and it is responsible for the execute the code. And JVM stands for the Java Virtual Machine, and it is responsible for the to execute the code line by line. Then JDK is a combination of JRE plus libraries, development tools, and JRE is a combination of JVM plus libraries, and JVM is a platform independent.
JVM is platform?
Independent.
Are you sure? I mean, are we having JVM as an independent platform independent? I mean, whenever we wanted to install into the Linux machine, that same program will get inserted or installed into the Windows machine as well.
Yeah, so Java language is a platform independent. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, what is the constructor in Java?
Sorry?
Constructor in Java?
Constructing.
Constructor. What is
Yeah, yeah,
constructor in
yeah,
Java?
yeah, 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 yeah. So constructor means it is a special type of method, and it is an exactly same as the class name, and it does not apply or it does not contain any return time for it. Yeah, and there are parameterized constructor and no argument constructor, and also copy constructors are these are the type of the constructors.
Okay, can you please tell me what is the difference between heap and stack memory?
Heap and stack memory, yeah, sure. So stack memory, these two memory are having in an JVM or architecture. They are having a 5 allocation like heap memory, stack memory, also method area, and JVM library, something like that. So stack memory is useful for the to store our local variables. So local variable storing in the stack area, and heap memory is useful for the storing like an instance type of variables or instance or object type of variables of storing inside the heap area, or instance things are stored into the heap area.
Okay. Is there having any um, relation between the threads in terms of the stack and heap?
Uh, the relation with stack is an thread set, but the heap is not an thread set. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you ever worked on the Spring or Spring Boot?
Yeah, Spring Boot also. Yeah, Spring Boot also. Yeah.
Okay, can you please tell me what are the different notation you have used?
There are lots of annotation I use like controller, service, auto-hire, then repository, then controller, risk controller, get messing, put messing.
Okay. So what is the main difference between controller and risk controller?
Yeah, so controller annotation is useful for the to mark class as a control class, and risk controller is useful in a RESTful web services. Yeah, And at the rate control annotation is an old one annotation, and at the rate rest control annotation are used in Spring 4. So when what thing happens, when I can applicable or any class can annotated with an at the rate control annotation, then what are the handler methods are return the view instead of the object. And whenever I can applicable rest control annotation on the top of the class, then what are the handler method having that class and return the object domain instead of the view. Yeah, so whenever I can annotate class has a address control has, then I have to also add one more annotation like address response body on the top of the handler method. And when I can annotate any class as a REST control class, then I cannot be, there is no need to use address response body annotation on the top of the handler method because address REST control is the combination of that two annotations.
Okay, fine. So what is the difference between path variable and request parameter?
Path variable and request parameter. Yeah. So address request param annotation are useful for the extract of value for the query string or query parameter also from the request. And address path variable annotation are used for the extract the value from the URL path.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what is the different life cycle of bean?
No, I am not aware about it. Life cycle of bean.
How to create a bean?
Yeah, so container is then useful for to load the string configuration file. And once string configuration is loaded, then bin will be get created, and once bin will get created, then it can automatically manage the life cycle of bin. And once it can manage the life cycle bin, then it can pass the required value for that particular bin at runtime.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. So what if I mark service layer as repository layer? Will my bin get created?
Sorry, sir. Can you elaborate the question?
On a top of a service layer, we are marking that service layer with the help of annotation like @service, right? And on a repository layer, we are marking that repository class with @repository annotation. Now, what if I mark service layer by @repository annotation? Will my bins get created?
Yeah, will be get created, but it is an confusion part for this because this annotation are make as a clear role, or it is they are the anonymous for the Spring framework. So they are having a separate role for it. Just bin will be get created, but we cannot be do for this. But we cannot do for this. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if I wanted to send a response in XML as well as the JSON format? Then is there having any annotations I need to use in the controller layer?
For that, if you have to use both JSON as well as the XML format data, then we have to use in an our handler on the top of the handler method in an our like annotation, suppose get mapping or pull mapping or the request mapping. We have to use like produce as well as the condoms attribute, and we have to specify that the value has like application slash JSON format, or if you want to use application like XML format, then we have to use application slash XML format. Then we can be able to use that.
Now, what if I wanted to exclude particular beans during the during the component scan level only? What will be the process?
Yeah,
I don't want it to create a bean during the application context layer, application scan layer only.
Yeah. So by using we can also use component scan annotation by using the for that we have to use enable auto configuration annotation by using the exclude attribute, and we have to specify the class name what I do have to do not create the bin, And also by using the @Spring Boot application annotation that has the same attribute like exclude attribute, then we can store we cannot be able to create for that bin for the particular class.
Okay, interesting. So on which database you have worked?
Like Oracle, yeah, Oracle.
So one last question I have. What is the @Spring Boot application annotation?
Yeah. So in a Spring Boot, it is an entry point and in our Spring Boot application, and it is having an top of the our main main method. It is having on top of the main method, and it is a combination of the three annotation like @component, sorry, @configuration, @component scan, and the enable auto configuration. So @configuration are useful for the Java-based configuration. @component scan annotation are useful for the scanning the component what we have to require to it, and enable auto configuration are useful for the to enable the automatic configuration features for the Spring Boot.
Okay.
Yeah.